Are you considering cutting the federal gas tax to help Canadians at the pump?
Well. Carney has revealed his new plan here. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, Carney coming out with a big announcement, $3.8 billion for nature. Yeah, we know this isn't going to nature. We've got a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, I'm pleased to see this. Elon Musk says Canada's language rules hypocritical and unfair as Air Canada CEO to retire. So he's pointing out what I've been bringing up in a couple of videos now, where this is complete ridiculous. The hypocrisy of Mark Carney shaming the CEO of Air Canada to resign. Meanwhile, Carney's French is awful. He doesn't have a French speechwriter. Michael Ma's apology wasn't in French. So I'm glad to see this is getting some major airtime. We also got Table Salt posting this one in regards to Carney's new housing announcement of taxpayers around Canada making houses cheaper in Ontario. Well, the builders are increasing the price now. You can see price increased $24,000. As Table Salt says, builders are raising their prices because starting tomorrow, the province and feds are offering huge tax discounts. This just goes to show that this system doesn't work. The free handouts don't work. Builders just increase the prices. Basically, taxpayers in 9 provinces are funding the profits of builders in Ontario. Congrats. What a great thing they just did here. And with that, we're seeing food banks bursting at the seams here. We've got demand is unprecedented. Food banks across the country see increase in need. Farmer just said it straight. If diesel stays high, expect groceries up 25 to 50% by September. Diesel equals farming, transport plus harvest. We've got food banks here running out of food now to the point where it says in Moose Jaw, visits are up 150% over 4 years and donations down 20%. And now clients are limited to 1 visit per month. That's not going to cut it for hungry Canadians.
In the past few years, the number of families depending on the food bank has tripled, limiting the food supply, which has pushed Moose Jaw's food bank to reduce its services, allowing visitors to stop by only once per month instead of twice, along with adjusting the amount of food given to individuals and families.
This is an issue that goes beyond just an increase in donations. To expect a community this size to be able to continue to donate more and more to keep up with this demand, I think is unreasonable. So I think what we're asking now is our community to reach out to all levels of government.
The Saskatchewan NDP says...
You hear that? All levels of government. They're starting to say it. This is the government's fault. They need to stop spending money. That's why things are so expensive. All this inflationary deficit spending is destroying Canadian lives.
The issue speaks to the cost of living crisis, calling on the provincial government to continue its funding directly for food banks.
We want to see that funding reinstated. Things are not getting less expensive, and demand is continuing to grow on food banks.
When it comes down to it, they can add more funding. That's good and all, but really it's the inflationary spending of the Liberal government. Justin Trudeau spent more than all other prime ministers combined, jacked up the prices, and Mark Carney is here doing the same thing but worse. And yet people keep voting for these guys. They just don't understand. And with that, I got a little update here. So regarding conflicts of interest, printing this stuff out, putting it at grocery stores, I've had a major fiasco with my printer as well. My HP printer I bought a year ago gummed up. The ink dried, so I couldn't print. Then they wanted me to pay $15 a month to unlock a feature that the printer has to heat up the ink to clear it so I could print again. So now that the crappy HP printer is gone, I got a real laser printer now. I'm realizing that the font is too small on this kind of stuff. I'm going to reword the conflicts so they're much simpler so people can read them bigger. We can make the font bigger and start printing this stuff out. Bear with me on that. To get that updated soon, we can start putting stuff out because average Canadian doesn't know what's going on. They don't understand why food is so expensive. We've even got bricks here. We got this guy posting installing a brick patio in Canada and Rona, $1,500 Canadian. He went over the border, bought the same thing for $560 in America. Moving ahead, we've got Carney's press conference here announcing $3.8 billion for conservation strategy. This is just a way for Brookfield to make money, and nobody's talking about this.
Today, we're launching a force of nature, Canada's strategy to protect nature. This is an ambitious new plan that invests $3.8 billion of new funds across 3 pillars: protecting nature, building Canada well, and valuing nature and mobilizing capital.
So he starts to give away the key words here. Now, why would he spend $3.8 billion in protecting nature when Canadians are starving? I just showed you food banks are bursting at the seams. People can only do 1 visit a month in Moose Jaw, but he's going to spend $3.8 billion on nature as if that's some sort of priority.
Nature is a force for our well-being. When we're protecting nature, we're protecting Canadians. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the rivers we swim in. That's why today we are putting in place enduring mechanisms to achieve that goal of protecting 30% of our lands and waters by 2030.
This is mumbo jumbo. Has this guy ever swam in a river? When's the last time he was in a river? Just wait for it. Listen to his language here. He drops a couple key words, which reveals the entire plan.
To get there, we're moving forward with a comprehensive approach. We'll create new national parks and marine conservation sites, new national urban parks, everything that Julie got into politics for, and more. And new so-called other effective area-based conservation measures, which are sites where the land and water can be conserved while allowing some other activities.
So new parks, new conservation areas, national parks, these parks all need management. Just wait for it.
Creating these spaces is ambitious. It requires significant funding. And we know we can't do it with just public money alone.
There it is. You can't do it with just public money alone. Carney's breaking the ice with taxpayer money and then wants to entice private money to invest in this, but they also need a manager to manage these parks and this money. So now who would manage these parks? Can you think of a company? Is there any company? Oh, Brookfield, that's right. Now he doesn't name that, but obviously that's where I'm going with this. I think he's going to get Brookfield to be managing these parks or some of these parks, and they'll get a management fee of 1 or 2%, and we're talking billions of dollars. It's a lot of money to Brookfield.
That's why we'll work with the private sector to catalyze investments and preserve our lands and waters. Now, we're starting investing in our existing national parks to safeguard the extraordinary sites so they can be experienced for generations to come.
Okay, so he just goes on to ramble here. Let's break this down, what's going on. Not only will there be a management fee for a company, say like Brookfield, to manage these new parks when Canadians are starving, and he's spending $3.8 billion on this instead of food banks and cutting gas taxes, cutting government programs, inflation. He's moving forward with this nature plan because they can monetize it. Not only with management fees, but with stuff like this. This is a perfect example, creating value for nature with carbon credits. What is this article about? You can see in the top left here, it says africaparks.org. Africa Parks is a group of parks in, well, Africa. And what have they done? They generate carbon credits from this that companies buy the carbon credits. Africa Parks manages carbon projects that measure and verify carbon storage, emission reductions, and additional carbon sequestration achieved through the protection and restoration of natural ecosystems. To do this, independent auditors verify these results under internationally recognized standards such as Verra's Verified Carbon Standard, VCS, and Climate Community Biodiversity Standards before the corresponding carbon credits can be issued and sold. I think this is what he's going to be doing here in Canada, and obviously Brookfield is the one that's going to be making the money from this. It also solidifies the carbon credit market, which all pushes to his Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1, because that's how he set up everything to get his $1 billion off the backs of Canadians. Now, the other things to think about here is his initial statement said he wants to do this by 2030. This lines up with his Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1 maturing and completing. The other thing to consider here too is it's quite likely he's using this as a way to entice the big pension funds to come in and start investing, breaking the ice with taxpayer money, proving the ground, taking away the risk, de-risking this carbon market. It's a devious thing. It says here the revenue generated is directly shared among relevant stakeholders, including communities, governments, yada, yada, yada. So they have already rolled this out in Africa. And I think this is a blueprint that Mark Carney is doing here now, because there's no reason he should be spending nearly $4 billion on parks right now. Like, let's get real. Canadians don't have jobs. Canadians can't eat. And he's spending money on nature parks. Those parks will be totally fine if we don't spend $1 on them. They'll exist exactly as they are right now. And so this goes to lay out some of the parks here in Chinko, Central African Republic. They've got Penjari, National Parks Benin, and it says here, national parks, part of a transformational complex, yada, yada, yada. I think they're using this as a blueprint to do this. At the bottom here, it talks about the credits. It says purchase verified carbon credits. Corporates and institutions can purchase credits to contribute voluntary to climate action as compensation for non-avoidable emissions or as part of the broader sustainability commitments. So what's going on here is he's done the heavy lifting of using taxpayer money to open up this new market, get all the land secure, create new parks, work with existing parks, then needs the management company to come in like Brookfield, and then they'll have these companies come in and verify how much carbon these forests that are being protected will generate in value of carbon credits. They'll have to verify, are they a permanent removal of carbon, and that would yield high integrity removals. So they'll have to have someone come in and verify the quality of these lands and if they're permanently pulling carbon out of the air. Otherwise they would be low integrity removals, which wouldn't be all that valuable to Brookfield. So I can only imagine they've already vetted this up front, and that's why they're they're rolling this plan out now. Now, the question is he going to try to hide this money going over to Brookfield by changing some of the rules, the legislation, the laws after he gets his majority government, and we won't even see what's going on? And once this carbon credit system is fully in place, you've got numerous places generating carbon credits. They can start pushing this out onto food, and you have to pay the carbon piper on every single thing we buy in the grocery store or at restaurants. Does it have a carbon credit attached? Oh, that chicken tiki wrap has a sea level carbon emissions, thus you have to pay an extra $1 or $2 for it to pay for your carbon output. This is going to further make things more expensive for Canadians, and it will make Mark Carney stinking rich along with Brookfield. This is a disgusting draconian plan that I think he's rolling out here. Now, time will tell if this is what he's doing, but otherwise, well, why would he spend $3.8 billion on protecting parks when Canadians are starving? Somebody tell me. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and we know full well Carney's lust for money. Now, jumping ahead in his press conference here, we've got a couple of these clips. This one posted by Ryan Garrettson talking about removing gas, which directly ties in with what we were talking about. He's asked about removing GST off of gas, and he's also asked about proroguing the government. So let's just address proroguing the government. We got this article from the Globe and Mail saying the government says it will not prorogue Parliament if Liberals sweep April 13th by-elections. It says here, if the Liberals win 3 by-elections, the sources said one option being looked at carefully for the government is have a short prorogation, come back with a new throne speech, revamp the committee system. Another option is to prorogue in September. The Globe and Mail is not naming the sources, and then it says a third source said the government could also try to change the standing orders on committee membership without prorogation, but the government official said the Conservatives in the bloc would put up a political fight, likely mount a filibuster to keep the current committee standing that were set after the general election. So it seems a higher possibility that we might have another election, because if Carney gets a 172-seat majority, the Speaker can't vote. And if Carney's out of Canada, he also can't vote. Now, if he wins a Terrebonne riding, then that gives him 1 extra seat to play with. It's not a good majority.
Abigail Beeman, CTV News. Are you considering cutting the federal gas tax to help Canadians at the pump? And at the same time, if you get a majority government in 10 days, are you considering proroguing Parliament, which may get in the way of any potential legislation?
Okay, I can answer the second one first. Absolutely not. It has never even entered my thinking, the possibility of that.
Except we have sources from the Globe and Mail saying that they are considering this. Carney the liar.
So I couldn't have been more surprised to see a suggestion that was under consideration. Alors, en français, c'est aucune chance. Would prefer to do anything more extreme. But adjusting legislation where it needs to be, where it's better informed by the discussions in Parliament, where we have to make compromise in order to do it. And we've shown that. We've shown that consistently. And I think what we've seen, certainly in the last 2 months, is the real progress that we're making across a range of bills in crime, the Budget Implementation Act, other aspects. So there's no question of that. And I've already forgotten the first part of your question, Abigail, so sorry.
Gas. You said a few days ago that you are following.
It's not important to him because he's a multimillionaire or billionaire. He doesn't care about the price of gas. Removing that off for Canadians to get to work cheaper doesn't give a rat's.
It closely.
Yeah, we are following it. Yes, Abigail, we're following it closely, and we in the context of fiscal realities, other measures we've taken to improve affordability, the persistence of the potential oil price, the higher gas price. So we have to take all of that into account, and we will. We'll have a fiscal event in the spring with the spring update, and that would be the right time to fully answer that question.
Yeah, so no, he's not going to do it because he doesn't care about doing that for Canadians. It's not a worry to him that Canadians can't afford to live right now. Classic Carney word salad, 47 seconds to say, lol, no thanks, peasants.
Affordability's the best it's been in over a decade.
That sums it up right there. 218.9 at the pump. Now here's Carney asked about missing his MOU deadline with Alberta. He's not making that.
But will we perfectly meet the first? Not necessarily, but do we have momentum? We're making progress. Yes. We'll get the right agreement at the right time, but I anticipate soon.
He doesn't care about getting that pipeline built. The only way it happens is with a $16 billion facility that sucks CO2 out of the air and provides Canada with nothing. Now, moving ahead, he gets asked about Quebec separation.
Do you want that Quebec split from Canada? If 51%, 50% plus 1 votes in favor, do you think this is enough for Quebec declaring its own sovereignty? Our government in Canada is a corporative federatism. We are working in close collaboration with Quebec.
C'est un moment Ou le pays
Right now,
de son...
what I believe, and according to some polls, our country is more unified than before.
That's a lie. Like, we know that's a lie.
And one of the Quebec value, which is actually also a Canadian value,
Protéger la nature.
is to protect nature.
Oh, there it is, to protect nature. And we've got this one here. This is quite the clown show. UK midwife facing deportation from Canada after work permit denied over English test. So we have truck drivers who end people's lives who are not using a real license. They all use one person's license, 25 of them. Liberal judges give them lenient sentences after ending Canadians' lives. They don't get deported, but then we've got a UK midwife being deported because of English test. Canada is so incredibly broken. It's not funny. We do have this, though, which is interesting. Breaking German Chancellor Friedrich Merz announces 720,000 Syrian refugees will be repatriated within the next 3 years. So people are starting to be deported from countries because, well, it didn't work out. Next up, we got journalist here, Eli, with another street interview asking people about who they're going to vote for. Canada's youth. Surprise, surprise. It's another one for Pierre Poilievre.
Between Poilievre and Carney, who do you prefer?
I would say probably Poilievre. Carney, I haven't really seen him do too much in 1 year. I mean, again, I haven't seen Pierre do anything either. He's not prime minister, right? But I personally just align more with what he wants to do. But even if Carney were to work towards focusing more on Canadians, I think that would be also just a great thing. But for what Pierre stands for, I mostly align more with that than I do with what Carney is actively doing now.
This is interesting because the youth are seeing that Carney's not doing anything. Moving at speeds unimaginable, blah, blah, blah. It's not happening and people are noticing. Because it's not likely these guys are watching every episode of Moose on the Loose or whatever. They're just catching the highlights and they're realizing nothing's happening. So the gig is almost up here for Carney, and that's why he's trying to jam through his majority government. I know most Indians are in favor of Poilievre. They don't want this immigration. I mean, a lot of those people, they left India because it's so crowded over there. They want a better life. So I'm not surprised by this comment. They say they left India and don't want to see another India in Canada. I think this is really what the case is here. And it's sad because these people were lured here by the Trudeau and Carney governments, a lot of them getting money to pay for their stay. And then once that gets cut off, then they drop into the reality of, well, hell in Canada where everything is super expensive. And often a lot of these people go back home because it's too expensive. And with all this straining our systems, then we have our best and brightest leaving Canada as well. We have all our youth, university students, graduates all leaving Canada, going to America where there's just a better life. Meanwhile, Carney and the Liberals, they don't care. They're getting rich off this. They're like, whatever. Carney's not patriotic about this country. He doesn't love Canada at all.